Joining me today is Donald Mowat. He is an award-winning makeup and hair designer. Donald has over 42 years experience and known for his work on several movies and TV projects such as Dune, Skyfall, Presumed Innocent, to name a few. He's here to talk about his latest project, Man on Fire, a TV series airing on Netflix. Welcome back, Donald, and congratulations. So 42 years, right? You've been in this industry.
Well, yes, I never used to want to admit it. I thought, oh God, it's going to give away my age, as my mother would say. But I had to do a little math and realize I got a pin from the union at one point. One of the first unions I belonged to in the IATSE sent me a pin when it was 35 years. And then I realized, but I got that pin about 5 years ago. And so it was sitting on a shelf. And then I sort of did the math. And suddenly somebody said, no, you started in 1985
Wow.
was your first job. And I was involved in theater and school and things in college and high school years. So paid in the industry, 1985 was my first job. So that's 42 years.
Well, congratulations. And I mean, the industry has changed, right? The landscape and you've seen it all, Donald.
I certainly have. And, you don't realize that until you talk to somebody else who's been around. And I, just had mentioned to you earlier, speaking to an old friend of mine, one of my greatest friends I ever made in this industry, wonderful, multi-Tony nominated, Oscar nominated, BAFTA winning Kate Nelligan, one of my favorite actresses. She retired and we were talking about it. And she said, no, 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 you don't get to decide. You get retired, you get put out. It's how it goes in anything. Let's, face facts. But she said, for you to still be deciding what you want to do, in your 60s, is kind of incredible. So I feel there's a lot of power in that for me now, in accepting that and getting into the last part of my career, basically.
Yes, and you've won several awards and that's such, wonderful, about your career. So congratulations. And I want to talk to you today about the Men on Fire TV series. And
Sure.
so
Mhm.
Donald, how did you get involved?
Well, it's interesting because, as things were starting to, well, not slow down, but, we did have, as you know, I'm in between strikes and all the things that were going on in the business and an overall kind of malaise and things slowing down. I thought, you're going to keep going. I love working. I didn't, I wasn't sure. I'd had a very good experience on Presumed Innocent. With some a great cast, all movie actors. So I thought, well, TV's different now. And then Man on Fire, I'd actually had worked with the producer on many films going way back, and Ed McDonald called me. We go back to Three Kings back in the 90s. And he said, come on, everybody's doing television. And here's this thing. And this actor called Yahyaabdul-mateen and Elisa Braga. And so he invited me to come to Mexico City and Brazil. And I'm really glad I did. And it was a really great experience.
I mean, tell us the process. What was that like? Because you filmed in Mexico City, Rio de Janeiro.
It's funny because it's the little things really that, take up a lot of time. I was brought on, I'm a makeup artist by profession, by craft. And I took on, also running the hair department, which I sometimes do on certain projects, films and TV, and then prosthetics, which I usually take on. And it was, I'd have a crew, all Mexico crew. They're fabulous. What a strong culture of filmmaking they have. And I had an incredible crew, and Carla Dueñas, my key makeup, and Claudia Farfan, my key hair person, were some of the best people I've ever had working with me, better than any movie. And it was reinforced also how the business has changed. And we also had to recreate Rio in Mexico City. So no different than, say, recreating it in Toronto or Vancouver or New York. Here we were in Mexico City, which is a North American country, now having to replicate the looks, hair, makeup, costume of a South American country with a very distinct flavor. So we did that. I did my research, particularly for the look for the favelas, which, people know about or have heard about. And then we had Brazilian actors coming to Mexico City. So we really had a very multinational thing going on. And of course, we shot the exteriors and a lot of the action in Rio.
Well, what was like the days like? I mean, like working because you had a team, right? Working with you.
Day to day, I always would, well, typically would look after number one on the cut. So playing Creasy, and then Billy Boulay, who's a newer young actor from the UK. She's, like 20 years old, really a lovely young woman. Alicia Braga, I've worked with before. I designed all the looks. We got all the hair, makeup, effects makeup sorted, and then there's a couple of very gnarly, nasty, beat up makeups in the show I look after. And then my team would look after Alicia and a host of other actors that were, Bobby Carnival, other people in the show.
Well, I mean, like, how do you develop the look? I mean, there's research involved, but like, do you work at the script or the concept, or like how does it, what does it look like?
For Creasy, because, it's obviously based on a film, a well-known film with Denzel Washington, you have a lot to kind of live up to. In our case, Yahya and I talked about just not looking his best. So we had a few changes on him where his hair is braided, then it's not. He looks, he's been drinking, not sleeping. It's hot. It's Brazil, So the one thing that I wanted on every single character is feeling that it's one of those humid, well, you get it in New York and you get it anywhere on the East Coast where it's really humid, soupy weather and the way your skin looks. And that's what I wanted for everybody being in Brazil. And of course, we put that into the makeup on everybody in the show.
Having that relationship is so important, right? Like you have, you know, going through this is what we're going to do, and how do you, tell the viewers, how do you get to have that relationship with the actors?
Well, I think you work with the actors much the same as I'd worked with Yaya previously, just a little bit, and of getting the temperature of the skin and also the temperature of the place you're in, and recreating when we went to the favelas in Brazil, which was fascinating. But also, I designed some tattoos that were particular to Brazil. So we had people looking like they actually are not just actors wearing tattoos, but that they belong there. And the hairstyles fit what you see in Brazil because it is different than what you see in Los Angeles, where I live, or, being just, out. A lot of people forget that the devil's in the details. It's the small things in costume and makeup and hair that really identify something.
This is an action thriller, and
Yeah,
it's
it sure is. Yeah.
season one and 7 episodes, correct, Donald? Is that
Yes.
okay? And
Yeah. And it started with April 30th.
the 30th. And what has the feedback been like so far?
I think quite good. I know the viewership was quite good and high, and I think that between seeing on Netflix it come up, and I think it's been very positive, and that's very exciting because it's harder to get people. I mean, it's one thing in movies getting people in seats, but even on the world of Netflix and television, of getting people, especially younger people, watching a program and getting invested in something.
Can you share some behind the scenes?
Well, what was very interesting is there's some kind of very unpleasant kind of torture stuff that happens. For me, I love stuff like that because it's based in reality. It gives me something in the makeup that's very accurate. It's realistic. Working with an actor playing Tiago, I really enjoyed, although he spoke just Portuguese, me English, tiny bit of Spanish and French. With a translator, we had such a great time. And the Brazilian actors brought such a wonderful spirit into the makeup trailer. It was a lot of fun. And I really enjoyed doing those makeups. Anything that's kind of dirt, blood, sweat, even on Billy, where she's involved in an explosion and, she's kind of a mess. I love doing stuff like that. And the actors enjoy it, and it helps them be emote and be in that part.
Is it in other languages too? Men on Fire?
Well, yes, there's some. I mean, so Yaya speaks Portuguese and Spanish in it. Alicia Braga, she is a Portuguese speaker. So you do have a number of languages spoken in the show, but it's mostly in English.
English, and what do you want people to take away from, the Netflix series or TV series, I should say?
Well, I think sometimes, people always say, "What will you get from?" I said, "Well, what do you get from anything? I think one, it's entertainment. I mean, we're there are certain shows you look at. I was watching the other night, just getting ready for bed. There was a rerun of Downton Abbey, and I went, "Well, what's the point?" Well, it's fun. I mean, it's entertainment, and I think sometimes, I'll go and see a film or watch a television program or a documentary because it does have a real message. And other times you just want some entertainment, a diversion of something. And so I think that's how I look at it. And it does have a lot of very real things that are going on in the world as part of the show. But I think people just enjoy the suspense and the mystery involved, and seeing some new faces and the sound of it and the visuals.
Saying you're like 42 years in the industry, what drives you? You have, your passion. Well, how do you keep going? What drives you, Donald?
What a great question, because some days I'm not going to lie, when I've been on films and TV programs where, my wake up time is 3 a.m. or 3:30, it's hard. There are times you get out of bed, and I've talked to a lot of my friends and contemporaries and say, how do we do it? Well, you still love it. I mean, I still love it. And I think people can always tell when people love it. But there are moments and there are days now where I know if there's a scene coming up that my team can handle, I'm going to go home a bit early. I think we all start to do that at one point. Not every department can. But I do think that in order to keep going, you have to start also finding ways to work smarter and find a way to say, hey, you know what, on Friday, at the end of next week, I think I can cut out early. You have to really preserve. I've only learned that in very recent years. And I think I'm going to take a page out of the millennials' way of doing things by doing that. Is you have to, have the work-life balance, which is something I never understood. And now I'm starting to get it.
So that's wonderful. And what is next for you, Donald?
Well, I have two films coming out. I mean, how lucky am I? I've got Behemoth, which we just wrapped. When was that? In February, with Olivia Wilde and Will Arnett and incredible Pedro Pascal. Tony Gilroy wrote and directed it. I'm a great fan of the Gilroy family. And I've got M. Night Shyamalan's movie with Phoebe Dynevor and Jake Gyllenhaal coming out. So two features coming, a TV series, and I'm working right now up in Vancouver, up here on The Last of Us.
Wow, that's
Yeah,
wonderful.
yeah.
Well, congratulations, Donald. And
Thank you.
yeah, I mean, is there anything else you'd like to add that I didn't ask you?
Um, no, I just think it's great that you're doing what you do and connecting us all and still supporting our whole community, because we really do feel like, it's something that we love. And there's been I think some people feel a lack of community in the industry, how it's changed. And I don't think so. I think there's ways to get people back together, and by talking to filmmakers and people working in television and film and broadcasting, I think it really does help connect people to what we do and help us kind of shine as well in our own right.
So thank you so much, Donald, for being a guest on
My
the show
pleasure.
today. And merci and congratulations on your years and
Yeah. Ooh.
and all those films and TV is just wonderful. Thank
I
you.
really appreciate that. I feel, really privileged. And I always tell people when I work go to some schools and do outreach. And I just, if, look, you love what you do, it shows. I mean, you've been around. I think for any of us, no matter what you do, the late great Shirley Douglas used to say, if you're working in a burger joint and you're frying hamburgers and you do it well, you'll do anything well. And I I really believe that. I mean, she was a sage woman and lots of pearls of wisdom there. But yeah, I absolutely agree. So whether you're on a big feature or a TV show and it doesn't have to be, it can be commercials or theater or amateur theater, community things. I've always loved being part of it since I was a kid. And so I think that's really the best part, is to get paid to do what you love to do is really a great privilege indeed.
Thank you.
Thank you.